Welcome to the exploration of Balmoral. I begin today by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we gather today and pay my respects to the elders past and present. I extend the respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples here today. For the area being discussed today, which is Balmoral, I extend my respect to the Camaragal people past and present, as they inspire this presentation today. With Balmoral being rich in Indigenous history, I believe there are so many stories to be told. Today I will be focusing on the urban locality of Balmoral, located in the heart of Sydney's lower North Shore, within the affluent suburb of Mosman. I have been spending 50% of my time living in this area for just over 3 years, since my partner resided there in that period. I have always loved the area of Balmoral since there is so much to do there and it holds so many memories with lots of summer nights spent picnicking at the beach and endless hours of walking along the promenade during the 2-year COVID-19 pandemic. I selected this area as I believe it's a place that is full of history, a place where people from everywhere around Sydney come to connect and enjoy the environment. According to the 2021 Australian Bureau of Statistics census data, the median age in Balmoral is 45 years old, with 13,763 people living within that area of that census catchment, and 28 of them being Indigenous. Balmoral has 5 main ethnicities, which is English, Australian, Irish, Scottish, and Chinese, and 6 main languages spoken, which are English, Mandarin, Cantonese, Spanish, Portuguese, and French. Balmoral is a harbour suburb which has many different shops, schools, and meeting locations such as parks, ovals, and beaches where people are able to connect and visit. This area is predominantly Caucasian dominated for living. However, it is a common place for people of all ethnicities to visit all year round as it is such an open space with many different options for activities. In comparison to the other areas within Sydney, Balmoral and the suburb of Mosman is considered less diverse for living compared to the western suburbs of Sydney. However, the number of people and range of ethnicities visiting the area is extremely diverse, which is a positive and enjoyable experience to see so many people from around the city of Sydney connecting and enjoying their time through participating in recreational activities. The most appropriate site to begin is my partner's home, where I spend around 50% of my time living. I feel as though, as a couple, we have our own small culture, as described by Holiday 2011, which is bound by rituals, routines, and expectations. However, our cultural interactions are influenced by intercultural experiences outside of our small culture, such as where we travelled, our daily interactions in Sydney, and through the consumption of media. There is definitely an impact of social media on interculturality. Although no consensus has been reached among scholars, there are some who optimistically believe interacting with diverse groups of people on social media allows knowledge of new cultures, and I often recognise this opportunity on my own feed through seeing different people's cultural foods and traditions from around the world. This task made me consider my partner and my different cultural identities and backgrounds, and how we are able to live these together in our daily lives. For example, I am Australian and Italian, and he is American. We live out each of our cultures together through eating the food, attending or watching sport, and by me currently teaching my boyfriend Italian. I recognise that not all opportunities for transculturation on our relationship will be work or be positive. However, I do believe the opportunity for positive interaction between cultures and reduced bias does exist, and it is quite common throughout the world. I also recently saw this ad on TV, and by recently I mean in the pandemic. Redfield 1999 characterised nations as imagined communities, noting that although the members will never know all of fellow members, they are still able to mingle in synchrony. I believe media is able to create this sense of belonging, and I feel positive that this is becoming more prevalent in TV advertisements. Woolworths is currently created effective marketing by relying on the sense of belonging created by imagined communities, by including a variety of different ethnicities and cultures in an equal light in their advertisement. I mentioned this ad as it came out during lockdown, which was a time we spent a lot of time indoors with limited interactions with each other or others. However, this ad stood out to me during that period as it really did make me feel a sense of belonging and connectedness, as it was a reminder that everyone was going through the same thing during the pandemic. I chose this location as the first site as I believe a huge number of intercultural encounters occur on all forms of media we consume in our homes, and the customs we have learned from others and that we incorporate into our own routines. To overlook this location would be removing a large part of modern interculturality from my exploration of the Balmoral area. Second site, I have chosen Balmoral Shops. Balmoral Shops is where a collection of cafes and restaurants and bottle shops sit along a strip. Some of the restaurants include Kazi, a Greek restaurant, an Irish-owned cafe, a Japanese and Australian fusion restaurant, a fish and chip shop, and some Australian cafes. Along this strip of shops, I observed people meeting and connecting for a catch-up over food. I also witnessed families getting takeaways for picnics and beach day snacks. The Balmoral shop strip is always very busy throughout the day and is a common place for people, and both locals and tourists, to gather, whether they are eating in or just getting supplies. I interpreted this place to be extremely inclusive since it's so public and is often bustling with happy and friendly people. In this place, people who are there are often very polite, and they connect by saying hello to the local shop owners and giving smiles to strangers as they pass by. There are not many visual cultural markers other than some traditional Greek words found in the Greek restaurant. This is because all the menus and signs are written in English. However, when observing the people that are there, that's when you really see the rich culture, since there are so many different people of different races frequently shopping the strip. I selected this area as this is a range of different shops and shop owners who all have different cultural backgrounds, which is really positive to see. It is also nice to see people of different cultures congregating in one area and going along with their day, happy and open to whatever comes about. Some of the different ethnicities I witnessed included some of the Asian community, Indian community, Middle Eastern community, Spanish community, and some Australians. When walking around the area and observing, I found people to be extremely friendly, with my contacts being limited, but included people giving a smile as they walked past, or being polite and saying excuse me when they were trying to squeeze through the busy summer crowd. I think this is one of the standout features of Balmoral compared to other suburbs in Sydney, as so many different races and ethnicities are able to come together and go about their business in harmony with little to no conflict, which gave me a content feeling as I observed the people around me. I would imagine some tourists visiting Balmoral may experience second language socialization as they explored. As explored by Jackson 2019, as they are unfamiliar with the scripts that exist in these types of interactions in Australia and how simple they may be compared to what they are used to, whether you would usually stop a random on the street and have a whole conversation, such as some Italians may experience when they're in their normal location at home, compared to here where you just pass by and smile as you're just kind of going past. It's very much more fast-paced in this area compared to other places. Balmoral Beach is located in the centre of the area and is a nice harbour beach with no waves and 1.3 kilometres of sand. The beach in Balmoral is a place where people exercise, swim, picnic and sunbake. When you walk along the busy promenade, you see so many different people of different cultures enjoying their time. There are limited cultural markers in this area as there are only a few signs for beach safety which are in English. In this space, people relate to each other through wanting a mutual opportunity to relax and keep to themselves whilst they go about their day. It is also nice to see children from different cultures and families playing together in the rock pools and water's edge and connecting over the simplicity of childhood. Other than the children interacting together, a majority of the adults keep to themselves and their own companions, and there is limited interaction and engagement with people nearby. The Balmoral Beach invites a variety of different people from different cultures and socioeconomic statuses to participate in leisure activities. During my time observing the space, a significant thing that pleasantly surprised me and stood out to me was the Maori family who had set up a barbecue and marquee. The family was singing and playing traditional music and singing along with a guitar. In spite of many people of different cultures being around people, they were relaxed by this and almost seemed content listening to the Maori music. Jackson 2019 discusses cultural maintenance and language maintenance as acculturation strategies. This act of the family playing the guitar and the children singing is an example of cultural maintenance and language maintenance as acculturation through transitions traditional song. The City of Sydney referred to Balmoral as a place where the people can swim, kayak, paddleboard and sail. I confirm this is what I witnessed while walking down the sand. This is also exemplified in history provided by the Dictionary of Sydney, who provided an archive of a family and a sailing boat sitting on the sand of Balmoral Beach in 1915. It is interesting to consider that times may have changed, however, people still come to Balmoral Beach to enjoy their time 108 years ago. Through reflecting, I found that the only difference from 1915 to now would be the range of people who visit from different cultural backgrounds that come to the area, which is an example of cultural transformation. This makes me feel happy as there is a progression and increased inclusivity over the years in this area. The reason I chose to explore this location is because of the interesting information I found while researching Balmoral. New South Wales Environment and Heritage mentioned that in the caves under the sand of Balmoral Beach, there have been burial sites and animal bones which have been found and can be directly linked to the Aboriginal heritage and presence in Balmoral. I found this dichotomy to how Balmoral Beach was used in Aboriginal history to now in the present day extremely interesting to consider how the location has evolved. However, I think it would be nice to see some more signage with information about the past because I feel like this lack of acknowledgement of the existence is almost an insult to the Indigenous culture. The only sign present which mentions the Aboriginal presence is hidden behind a set of bushes near the rocks, which is tucked away from where anyone would cross paths with it. The Indigenous history is especially significant today since there is a recent native title claim worth $100 million for the claim rights of Balmoral Beach, which is described in the video below. It shocked me that this came as a surprise to many residents in the area who didn't realise this land had such strong ties to Indigenous people. Balmoral Park and Playground is my Site 4 and is a place where there is climbing equipment and swings for children to come together and play. What I observed when walking around the park was that parents watched and chatted with their friends, keeping to themselves while the children interacted with all children in the park. The only cultural markers I witnessed at the location was a small Aboriginal painting on one of the telegraph poles found outside the park. This is extremely interesting to witness, the glimpse of Indigenous contribution to the area, as despite it being small, it could be clearly linked to Indigenous people due to the distinct style and shapes of the painting. This made me feel as though the Indigenous history and tradition was trying to stay relevant and seen before it can be entirely erased from the area. There was a combination of curiosity and avoidance within this space, as it was clear children were curious when playing to get to know each other. The children were not fazed by the distinct differences in race, such as skin colours and accents. They just played together. However, there was avoidance in the parents, as they mostly kept to their own groups and avoided contact with other parents. I chose this location as I believe it's interesting to see how children are too young to believe in stereotypes and are more than happy to play with anyone no matter what their differences may be, physical or internal. For Site 5, Balmoral Oval and Walking Tracks is an area of Balmoral which has a big oval and walking tracks up to Georges Heights, which is another area in Mossman. Mossman Council recently announced this area would be receiving a $1 million funding upgrade to create a space where everyone can enjoy their time completing recreational activities, even when visiting from outside the area. When I was observing, there were children playing cricket and the teams had children of different nationalities, which was good to see the multicultural interactions. As I walked further around to the bottom of the walking track, I saw an acknowledgement of country on the National Park sign and a map which acknowledged the Indigenous people of past and present. This was interesting to see the Council and National Park integrating Indigenous history into the present, since the area is so rich with Indigenous history. When I was researching the area, I discovered a pamphlet created by the Mossman Council about the Balmoral Self-Guided Scenic Walk, which provided learning about Aboriginal history and heritage within the Balmoral area. This walk begins at the Indigenous plaque near the Oval. As a resident of the area, I was shocked to see that this was the first I had heard of this guided walk, and I strongly feel like there should be more information about it on the park signage to make it even slight progress to ensuring the Indigenous history in the area is not erased and bring the history to the forefront of the intercultural interactions that occurs within this space. There were limited interactions with people on the walking track since it was so dense with bushland. However, the Oval was extremely busy. The only intercultural interactions I witnessed were with the children playing cricket. However, there were lots of people talking on the sidelines, and there was no sense of hostility or exclusivity. I've come to realise that there are a lot of things about Balmoral that I was unaware of, including the historical significance of Balmoral Beach and the recent native title claim. These sites stood out to me as I visited them every week, which reveals how many cultural aspects of a neighbourhood I am unaware of in my everyday routines. I have been to these places so many times, and yet I will never know the interactions with them in the same way I do now, that I have been enlightened to these perspectives. I also feel that while I take personal responsibility for my knowledge about this area, this could and should be aided by information being provided by residents and visitors at historically significant sites to allow these Indigenous histories to live on. Thank you for exploring Balmoral with me, and I hope you learned as much as I did.